You're walking around with a gun on your hip, man. And at any moment, some bonehead is going to do something insane and possibly end your life. Like the average person has no clue.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Squad Room, the podcast devoted to creating and optimizing a healthy and fulfilling life for first responders all around the world. I'm your host, Garrett Teslav. If this is your first time listening to us, thanks for joining us. And if this is your second time, third time, fourth time, whatever it is, thanks for coming back. I'm a sergeant for a sheriff's department in Southern California, and on this show, I talk to experts in a variety of fields looking for those force multipliers that I can apply to my own life. I want to make myself and you happier and healthier so we can tackle our challenging careers with energy, enthusiasm, and focus. The entire purpose of this podcast is to make myself better, but then to share what I'm learning with you. Now, before we get to the interview, I want to remind you that you can get the information on this episode, including show notes and links to our guests' information by going to thesquadroom.net. You can also subscribe to the show, of course, on iTunes and Stitcher, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Squad Room. Now, our guest today, this is a big one, and I'm super excited to share this one with you because I've been following this guy for at least a decade, probably close to a decade. Many of you have, too. It was my first introduction to high-intensity interval training. Tony Horton, creator of P90X, is on the show today, and we talk about a whole bunch of stuff from P90X and my personal story of trying it way back in the day and having success and going all the way through to what he's doing these days with some of the personal development courses. He's got a new course out called Living Large, and we talk about that. We go through his story and his tips and tricks on just how to take those first couple steps on getting to your path for health and fitness, the importance that he places on nutrition and mindfulness, and, of course, the physical exercise. It's a great conversation, so I'm going to get right to it. Again, for show notes for this, you can go to thesquadroom.net. But for now, here's Tony Horton. Tony, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being here.
Garrett, my pleasure. I'm here to help and answer some questions.
Excellent. Well, I got a bunch for you, but I'm going to start with a story, I guess, first, because like many other officers, I myself am a quote-unquote graduate. I graduated from P90X many years ago, and I went through the program in my garage right out there when I was a younger officer, and had good success with it. And to me, what stuck out to me about going through that program, it was even through high school, I wasn't much of an athletics guy. In my early 20s, I was struggling with weight and whatnot. And going through P90X was the first time I felt strong. You know what I mean? Like, it was the first time in my life where I actually felt strong. And I remember even being on patrol one day, and for whatever reason, I was holding my arms, and I felt my biceps. And it was like, oh, man, I have a bicep. So that was a fun experience. Thank you for that. I want to ask one question about P90X real quick, because when that came out, everyone was doing the shake weights and the attaching electrodes to yourself and no work needed and 10 minutes 3 times a week kind of thing. And P90X was the exact opposite of that, right? I mean, it's a butt kicker even with the modifications, and it still is. Why do you think that resonated with people so much, and why do you think it was such a success? If it requires hard work.
Well, I think traditionally most people felt like they had to go to a gym and get on all those machines, whether it be an elliptical, a treadmill, a VersaClimber, or weight training, or whatever it was, and that you needed to go through that whole rigmarole, and for a lot of people it's a social thing, and they really enjoy that. I mean, I like going to the gym as well occasionally, just kind of getting there and kind of mixing it up with people. That's really fun. But, the average person who's out of college or high school, who's got a real life, that's just becomes so difficult, especially with kids and work and all. And so, I think there were a lot of companies that were selling fitness products. These are my air quotes. People who are listening can't see them. But fitness products were really designed to make money for companies so they could kind of, run its course for 3 to 6 months and then come up with another gadget or another weight loss, diet program or something. And they weren't really specifically for people who were serious. It was sort of a short-term weight loss thing, so you could take a nice after picture and then gain a bunch of weight back again. P90X was a complete anomaly, and we have to thank my partner on that, Carl Deichler, the CEO of the company. He said, "Hey, look, what do you do with Bruce Springsteen or with Sean Connery or Billy Idol or whoever you're training? Like, what does it take really to get people in the greatest shape? And can you do that? Can you convert that in people's living room without a bunch of stuff?" And I said, well, with a pull-up bar and some dumbbells in 6 days a week and for 90 days, we're going to get it done. And also you need a lot of variety. So my whole, you look at muscle confusion, which is the concept of what it really is, what P90X is. It's not much different than Jack LaLanne's periodization training. Just sort of making sure that you are not stuck in a rut, that you're repeating the same exercises over and over again with the hope that you get a different result. I wanted guys who were, lifting weights and going to the gym. I wanted to make them do more cardio. I wanted them to do some yoga. I wanted them to work on their flexibility. And when it came to women who were just, doing the cardio thing or the yoga thing, I wanted them to do pull-ups and push-ups and move some weight around. And so what that does, regardless of whether you're an ectomorph or a mesomorph or an endomorph, these are different body types, you know what I mean? Some people are skinny, some people are big. But when you force everybody to do completely different things that they're unfamiliar with, where they're working on their weaknesses, that's where dramatic change comes. And I mean, that's the reason why we sold 10 million copies around the world. And still to this day, with no media spent on P90X, it competes with all the other products that I've been doing lately, like 22-minute hardcore, just purely because of word of mouth, because everybody knows that thing works. If you're going to do those 12 different workouts for 90 days and you eat right, it's just common sense. And a lot of other companies, organizations that wanted to sell those machines and stuff, they didn't care about that. They didn't really care so much about their customer. They cared more about their bottom line, I think.
Interesting. So one of the things I remember from P90X, and being there in my cold garage in the morning is a quote you would say, get your mind right during that warm up. How much does mental preparation and mindset play into your fitness or play into our fitness in general?
It's everything. I mean, it's the reason why people show up or they don't. It really, really is. What is your purpose? What is your reason for being? Why are you in the room? What are you doing this for? And, anybody who's looked at exercise, the effects of exercise on the mental and emotional state understands how important that is, as much or more so than the physical. I mean, the physical aspect of training allows you to be able to do things. It allows you to be able to run fast and bend over and pick up boxes and just function well in the world. What happens to people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s is they stop moving physically, and so there are all these limitations that they're putting on their life. Just the stuff that they could just do for granted before are now gone, and now that has a serious effect on the mental and emotional state. You ask anybody who exercises on a regular basis, well into their 70s, and they're just a well-balanced individual who feels like they can kind of take on the world. And then you talk to people who don't exercise or stop exercise and gain a bunch of weight again, and they feel like the world has gotten smaller and smaller. Now I'm going to be 59 in a couple of months, and so I can't run as fast as I could. I can't bench as much as I used to, but I can jump as high as I ever could. I could do as many pull-ups or climb a rope upside down better than I ever have. I can go around a pegboard like I'm on the moon, So I just understand the importance of the mental and emotional aspect of it. So if you have my course or my book, I wrote a book called The Big Picture. I have a course called Living Large, and they're personal development books. And so when I started this journey, this physical journey, it was a personal development journey first. It was getting my head straight. It was helping me understand what was important. It was helping me understand how to prioritize in my life. Mm-hmm. And so once I figured that out, I went, oh, okay. The two things I can control, whether I eat well and exercise every day, those are two things I control. I can't control my family. I can't control the weather. I can't control the traffic. I can't control, politics. I can't control anything, but I can control what I put in my mouth, and I can control whether I move today. So so I understand it's variety, intensity, consistency, and purpose. Oh, and then the bonus one is accountability. The fact that you went in that garage by yourself and did P90X by yourself makes you a hero in my mind, because if my 3 buddies didn't show up yesterday at my house, there's no way I would have done 24 sets of chest and back, man. And if I did, I probably would have done it half-ass, And so, there's a lot of people who get up in the dark in the morning before they feed their kids and go off to work to do P90X in their cold basements or garages. And that takes a lot of discipline, man. So, what is the combination of things that you need so that your head is on straight? So this is automatic. It's who you are. It's what you do. There's no delay. You just get in there and you get after it, 5 to 6 to 7 days a week for the rest of your life. And if you do that, you understand that the mental and emotional state that you're in improves tenfold. like, you know who you were when that workout was over, and you knew who you were when you skipped that workout. And those were two different guys. When you blew it off, right, the guilt, the bad energy, the sort of the negative thoughts that come into your head. Yeah. But when you're in your car and you're reaching over and you're feeling those biceps, that tells you that you got it done, that you got busy, that you took care of yourself, and there's a sense of confidence and well-being that comes with that that you cannot get any other way unless you do it.
You know, I think a missing piece for us sometimes, at least in my profession, is, you talk about purpose, and I think cops and firefighters, our purpose is easy to identify, right? At least professionally, and so we don't have a hard time with that. And the physicality that's needed is kind of an obvious one, but then the mental prep that goes into it, and that's where I think the ebb and flow of motivation comes from. Is maybe I'm talking about myself here specifically, but that your mindset isn't always on point. You once described yourself as being the 50-50 guy back some time ago. Can you talk about that a little bit? And I think a lot of us feel that way, and we struggle with that lack of confidence that it brings. What is that? What is the 50-50 guy?
Well, I think one way to describe the 50-50 guy is somebody who certainly knows what to do, right? Somebody who knows what to eat. They have the knowledge. It's not like they're clueless, right? There's a lot of people who are just sort of clueless. They're getting so much intel from so many directions, they can't really make a decision, right? So I don't know what percentage that would be, but that would just be plain old confused. Now, the 50-50 person, I think, is the person that suffers the most because they know better, but they don't have a formula. They don't have a plan. They don't have a purpose to make them more of a 90-10 person or a 100% person. We're 100% most of us when it comes to paying our bills and brushing our teeth and getting a certain amount of hours of sleep and making sure that our family has our kids are getting off to school and everything's taken care of, right? So we have that sort of survival, mode that we're in. But I think a lot of us, once we have the intel, want to thrive. We want more than just surviving. And thriving requires another level. It requires more discipline. It requires a bigger purpose. It requires accountability. It requires, tons of variety when it comes to exercise and other aspects of your life, so you can avoid the boredom, injuries, and plateaus that come from, doing the same silly things over and over again. So when I was 50-50 guy in the early stages of my process, I would go really strong for 3 or 4 days and I'd take 4 or 5 days off. And I ended up with exercise bipolar disorder, you know what I mean? Because you're releasing norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin, something called brain-derived neurotropic factor. These are chemicals inside of your dentate gyrus. There's the temporal lobe, there's the hippocampus, and inside that there's this little tiny curvy thing the size of a baby's pinky finger that when you exercise, when you breathe heavy, when you're moving weight around, when you're punching, kicking, squatting, lunging, lifting, pulling, it's the breathing that goes into this part of your brain that causes this. It's called miracle grow, really, for the brain. It's this neurogenesis is really the sort of the scientific word for it. I mean, I learned all this from John Rady. He's a Harvard professor, and his whole career is the effects of physical activity on your mental and emotional state, your memory, your cognition, your sleep drive, all the things that make the glass half full. Mm-hmm. And it comes through the physical first. That is the foundation. That's it. That's what holds up the house. It comes through the physical first. And every day you don't do it, that temporal lobe, that hippocampus, that dentate gyrus gets darker and smaller and blacker and shrinks and dies. If you cut open the brain of somebody who ate like crap, never exercised, their dentate gyrus would be a dead black string. It has a direct correlation to how you see the world, how you feel about your life, how you deal with stress, how well you sleep, how good your sex drive is. It's everything. And all you got to do is move your ass. And when you don't move your ass, that thing dies, and your whole attitude, your whole mood, your whole perspective, it goes into the toilet. I mean, when I learned that, I was like, crap! I missed 2 days, man, and I freak out. I freak out because I know what's happening inside of my brain. And I mean, you could look. I'm 59 years old, and I'm more frenetic and energized and fired up than I was in my 20s when I was sleeping in till 11 o'clock and eating, Egg McMuffins for breakfast. I mean, it's choice. Nobody forces you to do anything, right? And so I have all the tricks of the trade. I need men and women at my house. Monday nights, I got as many as 15 people here doing plyo. Tuesday morning, shoulders and arms, I've got 3 or 4 dudes here working out with me. Wednesday is cardio. Sometimes it's only a couple, but maybe I'll get as many as 8. I only have 8 different stations that I'm on. Then yesterday, which was Thursday, chest and back. Guys are here. We're doing pull-ups and push-ups until we don't want to do them anymore. And today is balls and boxes, which is this whole core and plyo routine because I'm a skier, and I've always get at least 6 or 7 people here for that. You know what I mean? So a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have access to all these kind of people. Get online, get on the phone. Do it at their house, do it at your house. Set up a space, and if you give a damn, you'll figure it out. And if you're one of those special people who can do this stuff on your own, great. But 50-50 is nowhere to live because sometimes you feel great and sometimes you feel like crap, and you're better off just figuring out a way to get busy 5 to 6 to 7 days a week.
And that's the first step for someone looking, like you say, we get overwhelmed with this information sometimes about, no, it's, nutrition first or mindset first or physicality first, but it sounds like just everything comes from that movement.
Everything comes from the movement. I just did a course with Brendon Burchard. It's called Living Large. And I want to do the course because I can come up with 100 programs from Power 90 to P90X 3 to 22-minute hardcore, and all of them work. It's just like, and a lot of people do them, and they get in great shape for a bit, and then they're not anymore. It's so frustrating. I mean, I could see the frustration in people's faces when they think, oh, man, I'm sorry. They look at me and go, I'm a P90X user. You could tell they've gained their weight back or more, and they feel really guilty and weird. And I say, you just didn't have your purpose wasn't so powerful that it was as powerful as it was for you when you got to pay your bills every month, or when you got to brush your teeth every day, or when you got to go to bed at a certain hour so you can wake up and function the next day. Your purpose wasn't powerful enough. And so I wrote the book, The Big Picture, based on my trials and tribulations when it came to trying to figure this stuff out. I hated being broke, and I hated being out of shape, and I hated, the way I felt, and I hated the fact that I was the biggest procrastinator in the world. I just didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to live in that 2-bedroom apartment with a view of a convalescent home anymore. I was already in my 30s. Like, when am I going to get my act together? You know what I mean? So I read every book from Tony Robbins to Deepak Chopra to Richard Carlson to Andrew Weil to Gary Zukav. And for me, 80-90% of it was crap. It just didn't apply. But man, 10 to 20% meant something. And I just said, if it works for these people, they're writing books. You know what I mean? Some people, it's the Bible. You know what I mean? It's just simple. It's scripture. That's what gets them going. That's what gives them, keeps their head on straight. Mm-hmm. For me, it was my own, variety, right? I didn't want to pick from one book. I wanted to pick from 50 books, man. And so that's what worked for me. And the physical, the mental, and the emotional, and diet, and stress management, when you begin to have these things part of your life, then your life isn't this up and down roller coaster anymore. It's sort of this, you're riding pretty high most of the time, and then you peak out. Occasionally you're going to have moments like, somebody in your family passes away, or, you break an arm, or your girlfriend breaks up with you, But when those things happen, for me and people who get it, they eat better, they work harder because they want to get through it. You know what I mean? Other people who are just sort of floating, like that 50-50 people, like anything, you know what I mean? Like a hangnail. That's it. I'm out. I quit. I'm going to eat a friggin' Twinkie for lunch. You know what I mean? I'm not going to work out for a month because, I got a zit or whatever. And then something traumatic happens, like your mother passes away or somebody in your family gets in a car wreck. I mean, it just goes to hell in a handcart. You're living a life of drama. And you can, the physical, regular exercise will prevent the low lows and will help you get through things. For me, there are problems in everybody's life. I get it. But then, you have to be hardwired to find the solution as quickly as possible. And a lot of people just sit in the problem forever, right? And there goes their life. You know what I mean? Tick tock, you're dead. And so, the past is history, man. The future's a mystery. You got to get busy right now so you can live the best life you can, regardless of what's going on around you. So
let's talk about living large. It's, the first time I've seen you with a class where you're in a collared shirt, I think, and this is a totally new. I mean, it's not totally new. You have the book, but people know you for the fitness stuff. But this is really a much bigger concept, and it's kind of holistic in one way approach to helping people get better. What are the the keys in the class or in the big picture that you want people to take away from, or maybe begin with, to help them take those first couple steps?
Well, in the book, The Big Picture, there's 11 laws. And so when I met Brendan Bouchard, we kind of looked at the book and we thought, well, what would be the best aspects of the book that would make up the course? So we took 6 out of 12 of them: variety, consistency, purpose, progression, rest and relaxation. Some of the basic things that were, I think, for me, most powerful, that helped me kind of move my life forward pretty quickly. And so, you look at variety, for example. Variety is a lot of people get stuck in sort of this myopic mindset when it comes to everything. Mm-hmm. This is how I eat. This is how I train. This is how I treat people. This is my tribe. I don't want, I've got the blinders on. This has worked for me. I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. I don't need to learn more stuff. I don't need to meet new people. I don't need to start going to Pilates. What are you kidding me? What a dance class. I'm a guy, no shot. You know what I mean? And so when, a lot of people start with small worlds when they're kids, based on their culture and their parents and all that stuff. But then as they get older, right, and they have a few bad experiences, their world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So what I'm asking people to do is sort of get outside of your comfort zone in more ways than one. Obviously, the core of who I am is the fitness and the food. Like I was a weightlifter who got on a stationary bike. I would go in the gym and I would do chest, because that's what Lou Ferrigno was doing in the room next door, and that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing, next to me, right? And so, and they were big, but they couldn't play softball. I mean, I hit the ball and both hamstrings would explode. You know what I mean? So I thought, there needs to be a functionality aspect to my fitness, because why do I need to get big? Like, that's all about my ego being big, right? I'm just standing there like, by the way, I'm going to need the personality. I'm going to need how to communicate, negotiate as well. So how about less about being big and more about being functionally fit, working on balance, speed, proprioception, the things that keep me young, because big don't keep you young. Big leaves you vulnerable for injury. That's what big does. Unless you're a high school football player, or a rugby player, or a shot putter. I mean, I don't know so many dudes just want to, take a bunch of crazy supplements and get really big and can't figure out what their shoulder, their knee, their back, and their hips are all screwed up. Hello? It just blows my mind, man. So you got to get past that, and that's what I did. That's why the variety. And so when I looked at food, for example, I just ate whatever because I was poor, and I ate, burgers and hot dogs and pizzas. And then I realized, you know what? Maybe I need to hone that down. So I went radical and I went vegan, and then that didn't work for me. And then I went paleo, and I went, wait a minute. Why don't I just really eat whole foods? Why don't I just go back like it's 1920 and just eat the types of food that my great-great-grandparents would recognize? And it doesn't come out of a bottle, box, can, or bag. It comes from the ground, right? There's a chicken, kill it, cook it, eat it. There's asparagus, there's blueberries, there's strawberries, there's kale. There's foods that come out of the ground. So now I eat Mexican, Italian, French. I just eat really healthy versions of everything. And now I'm not stuck in this place where I treat my diet like some kind of religion, where I have to defend it. You know what I mean? I just eat everything, but I just, it's not Red Bull and Doritos. It doesn't come out of it's not manufactured in a factory. There's a few things that are, there's some, there's some granola that I'll eat once in a while. But I'm just nuts and fruits and for snacks. I don't eat desserts anymore. I'm just done. I did that. I mean, if I read one more article on how sugar can lead to cancer, I only need to read 2 or 3 articles like that where I go, okay, dude. So I blew key lime pie and chocolate brownies and sundaes and all of it, man. I loved it at the end of the day. That was my reward for me, for my discipline all day long. And so, I'm a bit radical that way. There's not a lot of people who do that, but the rewards are ridiculous. What I can physically do, how well I sleep. I don't need no blue pills. You know what I'm saying, fellas? You know what I mean? So that's all choice. That's all discipline. Do you want it or not? You know what I mean? Do you want to have that kind of energy? Do you want to be flexible? Do you want to go in a yoga class, a level 3 yoga class, and everybody in there's half your age, and you can hold a handstand and they can't? I mean, that's just, to me, cool. And so variety is one piece of that. Consistency obviously is obvious, Purpose is everything. Why? Why are you doing anything? Why are you being haphazard? Like this, people are just sort of like, I'm going to spend half an hour on my sock drawer when there's so many bigger, better, more important things I could be doing, And so, progression is another one. Most people aren't even paying attention to whether they're making progress or not. They're just kind of spinning their wheels and they're working really hard. They're going, look at me, I'm sweating here, doing this stuff. But there's no improvement physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, or with relationships. So why? Notice the progress, write it down. And that's what the course is all about. You can get through this course in a day if you want to. You got to sit down the whole day and look at it. And there's a bunch of stuff that you have to fill out and look at. And so what it really forces everybody who's doing it is to clean up the chaff and the fog and the mystery of life and just pinpoint like this, and this. What am I doing? What am I not doing? What do I need to do? Am I willing to do it or not? Yes, because I've written it down in my own handwriting, man. And so a lot of it just comes from all my personal development. Like I pick and choose things from Richard Carlson or Keith Ellis. The Magic Lamp is a great book. Keith Ellis's book. Keith Ellis's book helped me figure out my career. I mean, I read a simple book. It's probably not even 180 pages. It helped me figure out what I was supposed to do for the rest of my life. I stopped doing all the other silly things, and I just pulled my energy in that based on one book. And this is a simple course. You can just sit down and, look at the screen and then fill out the paperwork in between. And the people who get it, the reviews are really great. And, I shot it with Brendan Bouchard. He's the #1 online course developer in the world. Tony Robbins goes to him. Arianna Huffington goes to him. Larry King goes to him. Usher went to him, did a course, and it was just an honor and a pleasure. I didn't have to hunt him down. He said, hey, man, I want to do a course with you because I love your book and I love your programs and I think you get it. And there's a lot more to what you do than just lifting weights and doing, punching and kicking. There's an aspect, and because this is how I started 35 years ago when I came out to California. First book I ever read was Wayne Dyer's Looking Out for Number One. I think I read that book in 1979, man. And I was like, what? I didn't know any of this stuff. And you don't learn that in elementary school and in junior high school, and college. There aren't really personal development books. And I tell you, a lot of guys with PhDs who are, living in an apartment, in a studio apartment with a view of the train station, they get all that knowledge, but they don't have any, drive to work and to fail and to get up and do it again. And that's what this whole thing's about.
So one of the things we talk about, and you touched on this just now, was the common theme of this show is that we all need a team. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive, who might be able to bring something to the table. And it's not just friends, but it might be the importance of having a good physical therapist or a good psychologist for some people, or a good physical trainer, and then people to hold you to account too. You've talked before about in the common quote of you are the average of the 5 people around you, and that you are the company you keep. How do people, who aren't in high school and don't have a social structure, who've got wife and kids, how do they expand their peer base and search out these people who are who they want to be?
That's a great question. A lot of times people will talk about going out and doing that, but what are the steps to get there? So if you are, like somebody in your situation, you've probably got a wife, kids, or other ones like that, and you're busy with work, and where do you go? Well, that's what this little device we're both talking on is all about. That's certainly one way to do it. Beachbody has this coaching business, and there's 430,000 of them. And I think the reason why a lot of people got into it is, maybe because they love P90X or Shakeology or one of the performance line, and they want to be able to get a discount and maybe share that with friends and family. And that's one way. But this device, this laptop or phone or iPad or whatever it is a way to communicate with other people and find other people. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of trolls, a lot of idiots, and a lot of people who are just out to kind of muck up the system when it comes to social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Periscope, I don't know, whatever it is. But that's certainly one way. And if you have your head on straight and you're a fairly moral individual, you'll be able to figure out the cream of the crop and the chaff, right? The difference between the two. And that's certainly one way, because there's a lot of people who are exercising or trying to get their life together. And there's just no one in their family, and there's no coworkers, and none of their friends are there. And they feel like there's this light, man, but it's so dim and it's so far. And it's just because they understand that, your tribe is everything, but they don't have it. And so certainly this is one way. And that's a little bit weird. Like, oh, I'm online right now trying to find friends. Yeah, that is weird and hard. But you know what I mean? You look at online dating, it's the number one way people meet now. It's the number one way. I mean, 10 years ago, that's so gross and cheap and weird. I'm not doing that. Number one, because you're pinpointing, because in your town or at work, you have a finite number of people, and you look around and go, there's maybe two guys here, and they're both struggling like me. But online, there's millions. You know what I mean? Maybe somebody's in Taiwan, or somebody's in like South Africa, or somebody's in Japan, or somebody's in who the hell knows? You know what I mean? And so, you might never ever meet the person, but they can communicate like this, and they can use, their words, and that can be inspiring, and that can sometimes be enough. It can kind of take you over the hump, But let's say you're just not there. You know what I mean? That means you need to go online again. And you have to, here's a great way to do it. You make a list of all the things that are interesting to you. Mixed martial arts classes, P90X live classes, dance classes, you know what I mean? Or some kind of a social group within 20 miles of where you live. They're out there. You know what I mean? I mean, there's dance classes that my wife and I went to that were awesome, but we stopped going. And there were these cool people. Like, why did we do that? I looked at her last night. I said, why are we going to meet those great people and learn how to dance? You know what I mean? Like, so when Dance is on the Stars, dancing, what's that show? Dancing with the Stars. Thanks, honey. Calls me up, I'll be ready. Right? So, I mean, it's just, and the one thing about social media and, standing here and staring at people, that can also keep you from going out in your own town, in your own community and connecting with real people. And I think that would be probably priority number one. I'm very fortunate, because I have a lot of people who have done my programs, and I've met them on sets, and I've done these test groups. And so I'm always running into people. So more than half of the people that I train with are just, hey, dude, you did a great job through the test group. You want to come to my house? And I'm like, really? Yeah, whatever. You're a person. I'm a person. And, you worked hard, and I can keep my eye on you, make sure you don't get fat again, So I've just been very fortunate that way. But I would say that's the best way. Just go online. Write down like 10 things that really interest you, rock climbing or whatever, bike clubs. They're there, man. And don't expect that that's going to be, and this is really important, that you finally do that. You write down, okay, I want to take a dance thing. I want to go rock climbing. All right. Bike club. All right. Maybe people want a poker group. You know what I mean? There's so many people that gather and get together in churches and in schools and wherever. They're there. They're in your community. I mean, if you're way out, in a rural part of the country, that might be a little bit harder, but they're there, and then you go meet with them, and you kind of, it's like, hey, who's the new guy? And people always love new folks that come in, and maybe that first group is filled with weirdos, you know what I'm saying? And you just go, okay, well, you don't give up, all right? Hey, first time you did plyo, did you stop doing plyo? You got in there and you did it again, you know what I mean? And so when you communicate with other people, when you connect with other people, there's so much growth and education that comes from that. It's eye-opening. But if you're by yourself with your family in the house and that's all you have, then your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So, and if you have a spouse that wants to do it with you, then that's a win-win. You know what I mean? And the hope is that you have a spouse that says, hey, I get it. You're struggling here, and you want to connect with more people, and I think that's awesome. You know what I mean? And go for it. My wife on the weekends, she's got a horseback. That's her thing. She loves riding horses. She's got this great community, these great pals. On Saturday and Sunday, she's gone. You know what I mean? I don't see her all day. But either I'm going to support her in that, or I'm going to be I'm going to be an idiot about it and say, no, you got to hang out with me and train with me. That's just, right? I mean, and so same thing with me. I'm at yoga on Saturday. I'm doing my 3-hour, gymnastics routine on Sunday, and she understands that who I am, and she, makes us both better. So it's just about, talking to your family and searching and writing down that list. That's really important.
I think you bring, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay. So you bring up, you talk about the view, the blinders coming in and your worldview closing in around you. And I think that is such a thing that we, as in law enforcement particularly, have to fight against. We really have to struggle against allowing ourselves to close ourselves off to quote unquote normal people. Your accountant neighbor who has no concept of what we do at work, and maybe might find it fascinating, might also find it offensive to some people, right? But we close ourselves off from these people because we don't want to get hurt, we don't want the drama, etc. So then we end up conversing and living our lives with people who are like-minded, who live in those same blinders, right? Which, of course, is only other cops. So
Right.
you're sharing this echo chamber back and forth of closed-minded, blinders on, not trying new experiences, the outside world sucks, et cetera, and it's a downward slope. It's a slippery slope, right? And but to me, what strikes me is that the first step to opening those blinders off and taking those blinders off again is overcoming a fear, and then there's a fear there. You know, as someone who's gone from the guy sitting on the couch eating pizza and drinking beer like you were to being you now, what would be that thing you would kind of whisper in their ear from the other side of the wall, that fear? What would you say?
Wow, man. And I get it. I got a lot of friends who are coppers, you know what I mean? And former cops. And, you know, I would say that the profession right now is as rough on you guys as it's ever been. I mean, the media thing, everybody's got a camera, and there's a lot of bad press, and there's always a few apples in the mix that makes everybody else go like, holy crap, man, Jesus, making this harder and harder for us.
Right.
And then the public, right? You know, the public can't, they can't slip into your shoes and have an understanding of, like, you're walking around with a gun on your hip, man. And at any moment, some bonehead is going to do something insane and possibly end your life. Like, the average person has no clue, right? And so, when I was really struggling, and I don't even know if this equates to your situation at all, but I can tell you that from my point of view, when I was really, really struggling, I think the one area where it does kind of make sense, where it might translate, is that I had my crew, some good, mostly bad. We were all in sort of the same mindset. A lot of us I was an actor, right? And I was trying to do stand-up comedy. And we were in this sort of very, like everybody else who wasn't an actor, anybody else who wasn't doing what we were doing, anybody else who wasn't creative, anybody else who wasn't, they'd understand the struggle of going to audition after audition and having them look at you like, get out of here, you suck. You know what I mean? Like, it was constant rejection. And it was brutal, you know what I mean? But we all kind of had our own little thing. And I, at that time, I was exercising a little bit here and there, and I was doing like 1,000 of other jobs just to pay my bills. But it wasn't a place where I was looking to meet new people or go outside of my comfort zone or any of that. I had to read the books, and I had to go to the seminars. I mean, I had to go down to the airport at the conference room and do a Temino seminar. Like, what is this? Like, a friend of a friend. And I remember I was beating myself up about it. Like, what? Why would I mean, I'm my act's together. I know what I'm doing. Everything's going to be fine. But then I looked at my finances, and I looked where I lived, and I looked how I felt most of the time. And I just felt stressed out and overwhelmed and unhappy. All right. And so I thought to myself, I need new intel. I'm going to go. And I went, I'd go to these things, right, with my arms crossed, like looking around like, everybody here's a loser. Why am I here? You know what I mean? And, a lot of them were, in my opinion, losers. But, man, there was a handful of just brilliant people who were willing to take the risk and be a little uncomfortable and meet new people and in the process learn a new way of looking at life, And so I think, if somebody's listening to this conversation between you and I, the best way for that to happen, for you to be able to feel like you can open up and get kind of bust through those fears, is to start exercising somehow, some way. Because it does open up the brain's ability to be able to sort of take in that new experience and learn that new information and feel like you can bust through those fears. And I know, a lot of coppers know that. I know there's like, hey, I've been to 53 military bases around the world. There's a lot of machismo, a lot of ego, a lot of like, hey, man, you know what I mean? I drop bombs, or I fly jets, or this is my tank. And but under the surface, a human's a human, man. And there are things going on in your life with your health, with your fitness, with your family, with your finances, with your coworkers, right? That it's kicking your ass. and you don't feel like because you're a cop or you're a drill sergeant or whatever it is that you just got to hold on. You just got to fight through it, and that's a ticking time bomb. That's a ticking time bomb, man. And the best way to let that pressure out, is through exercise. And food is another one. I mean, we don't talk about food. We all think that exercise is going to solve all our problems. Exercise allows your body to be able to function, and maybe you feel good in your own skin, and make you feel you can, you don't feel overwhelmed physically. But diet is chemicals too, and where do you think all that goes? It goes into your head. All the fat, sugar, salt, and chemicals that are in all this crappy food affects you much more dramatically than the exercise. Food is health, or it's poison, and it's and there's all those levels in between. But a double cheese chimichanga is just a form of future cancer, future stroke, future heart attack, future hypertension, future short death before your time. It might have tasted good. It might have satisfied some of your needs in the moment. And no one likes eating just kale. Okay. So, you got to figure that out. And if you're not willing to figure out the food and the fitness first, and you're not willing to get outside of your comfort zone with new people in your life, then the fears will eventually overtake you. And when you are in a situation of great stress, you can make a bad decision, and that bad decision could ruin your life. And so the idea here is that you want to be pliable, and you want to be flexible, and you want to be, you want to be calm under pressure. You want to be able to sort of make good decisions when things get really rough. And the food and the fitness part, that's priority number one. That gives you the foundation you need to be able to get through your fears and deal with some of the stuff that you're struggling with, that you might find difficult otherwise. And we're getting into sort of the esoteric aspects of personal development and all these sort of things. And a lot of people kind of scratch their head and go, "Hey, shut up, buddy. I don't know what you're talking about." You know what I mean? But I watched my father, right? My father, oh man, and a lot of guys have fathers like that, man. Just really rough dudes, just everything was a kick in the balls and a punch in the face, and dealt with through alcohol and bad choices. And it doesn't have to be, but the other side is scary. The other side means that you have to completely dramatically change everything about the way you look at your life. And I'm not saying that's going to happen overnight. It can't. It's got to be a long, be the tortoise, not the hare, on all this stuff, man. Just, open up the door slowly, peek through, do your analysis, and then, step in and see what happens, And there's always growth. There's always growth. There's always improvement, but you got to do it, man. And it's not easy. It wasn't easy for me. It took me a couple decades before I got to the place I'm in now.
So what do you think in terms of that growth? What do you recommend people do for that mental growth? Is it journaling? Is it meditation? Is it reading these books you mentioned? Is it going to these seminars? What are like one or two things that people can start like today to start moving their path forward?
No, number one, this is just because of what I do for a living. Look at your pantry and your refrigerator and see what's in there. And you don't have to be a nutritionist to know what's good and bad for you in there. Mm-hmm. I have the only thing in my freezer are these organic, sugar-free, coconut chocolate-covered bars. Right? It's not even they're tiny. They're like this. They're this tiny. They're the size of your palm. And 4 of those will last me a month. That's it, man. I don't have any other real sugary things in my house. I have some Beachbody Performance line, which is sweetened with stevia and some other things. But I don't have any. A loaf of bread will last me a month. You know what I mean? So you are what you eat. Jack LaLanne lived to be 96. Both of his parents died young because of bad choices. He lived, a half a century longer than they did because of good choices, right? So it's ultimately the fuel, number one. That I would just say, don't worry about the exercise. That's number 2. But number 1 is, what are you putting in? Because what you put in affects the way you think, affects the way you function, affects the way you look at the world. It's just like your car, right? You're not going to go down to Mexico and put some 15-octane gas in your car. It's just going to run like crap. Same thing with, I got a racehorse. Whoa, look at me. I'm going to go feed it hot dogs and a burger. No, man, you get it the best trainer, you give it the best fuel, and that's how it runs well. We're no different. We just think we're what are we, goats? What are we, pigs? We can just put whatever we want in here and hope it all turns out okay? No, look at the friggin' mirror, right? If you don't have a six-pack, you're not eating right. It's that simple. You don't even need to do crunches or abs. It starts with what's in your fridge. And by the way, food. It's your salvation in a lousy day. And you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day where you get to solve your problem momentarily. You think you are, but in the long term, you're creating more problems. So figure out where you're going to go, figure out what you're going to shop for, figure out what you're going to have in your house that you can enjoy eating, that is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. When I say that to people, it's like, ugh, really? Can't I just read a book or go to a seminar or listen to Tony's course or go run 3 miles? No, man. Food is first. It always has been. It always will be. There's a healthcare crisis in this country. Why? There's an education issues in this country. Why? It's because we're putting garbage in our mouth every day, and we can't figure out why things aren't going well. So that would be number one. Number 2 would be, you ready for this, coppers in the world? Start doing some yoga. That's right, P90X. Everybody skipped the damn yoga. They went to plyo or they went for a run instead. Yoga is everything. It sucks, okay? I don't like it. First time I went to a yoga class, I was chasing a pretty girl. Otherwise, I would have never gone in there. It saved me because it forces you to be in these positions for long periods of time when you just would rather punch something, okay? And so that metamorphosis, that mental and emotional and physical metamorphosis is like going through a grinder now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it is awesome in every way because you're working on your balance, you're working on your strength, you're working on your flexibility, and you're working on, number 1, ding, 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 your patience. Your ability to be in these positions where you just feel like, can I just get on a bike? Is that not the same thing? Proper food and yoga, 1 and 2, I mean, it will change you. It will change you. But you have to believe that. You have to have faith in that. You have to think that Tony Horton, after 35 years and, $1.1 billion worth of sales, knows what the hell he's talking about, okay? And it's true. And then you go get to hit the heavy bike and then you go get to, lift a bunch of weight. You get to do all that too. But it's food and yoga, number 1 and 2. And the people who do that, I mean, here's what's great about those two. You don't have to pick up a book. You don't have to go to a course. You don't have to mess with anybody else if you don't want to, if you're not really into that. But those are 2 things you control, right? You can I have half-hour, 15, 20-minute yoga workouts on Beachbody On Demand. You don't even have to spend any money for 30 days. It's free, right? And that will get you way outside your comfort zone, and it'll be really weird, but I can guarantee that at the end of the yoga thing, even though you couldn't do half the moves, you'll feel different. You'll feel different. After you just feel like, wow, I feel like I can breathe. I feel like my brain is clear. I feel like I just had a massage and a jacuzzi at the same time. That's what yoga does. But it's not as comfortable as a massage or a bath. You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
It's just the process. But then you're earning it. Mm-hmm. You're freaking earning it, man. If it's hard, you're earning it. It's yours. Nobody gave it to you. It's you. You did that work, and the rewards are off the chain. Off the chain. And then you get your self-help books, and then you go to your seminars, and then you come to hey, anybody who's listening who's in upstate New York, come to Omega. Honey, what are the dates of Omega? Do you have it near you? Go to TonyHortonLife.com and come to Omega, man. You spend 3 days with me. The 23rd through the 25th of June, upstate New York. The place is ridiculous. It's just birds and trees and lakes, and it's a little rustic, but it doesn't matter. You're just there to kind of immerse yourself. And we got about maybe 20 seats left. And it's only 100 people. Like, I'm going to Summit in August, and it's 30,000 people. So I don't even get to see people. But this is 100 people. It's very intimate, man. And, you might go away going, Tony Horton's a bonehead. I don't know what he's talking about. But you might also come away going, holy smokes, man, I feel like I feel reborn. And that I get that a lot. I get people who just go, oh, if I eat this and I do that, and we do a 15-minute meditation, rock your world. And I hate meditating. I just sit there and go, oh, but this one is cool. And we'll do mixed martial arts, and we'll do some yoga, and we'll eat the healthiest food you ever had, and it tastes pretty damn good too. So that's go to TonyHortonLife.com, you guys and gals, and there you go. There's one, and there's hundreds of thousands of other opportunities just like it.
One of my first exposures to yoga was during P90X, and for people who think, it's often considered like a woman's workout because the women like to go, but that was harder. The yoga workout in P90X was far harder than almost every other workout in there, and obviously for a reason. And I've tried to maintain some consistency with yoga, or at least some deep stretching. The patience aspect of that you talk about is absolutely correct, but maybe to translate other things for people too. I went to a daddy-daughter dance day at my daughter's dance class a couple weeks ago, and we did this actually pretty intense warm-up with the other dads. I was the only one who could put my palms down on the floor while we were stretching the hamstrings, and I could actually get my shoulder below my hip, and these two other dads were, just creaking and cracking and looking at me, and just commenting. We're all about the same age. We're all about 40, give or take, and they were amazed at how flexible I was, where I was feeling not flexible at all. I was like, oh, I'm stiff. I'm out of it today. I haven't stretched. But for people who might be a little reluctant to try yoga because it's going to help your squats. It's going to help your deep squats. It's going to help all of your other physical movements are going to come from that. So I wholeheartily agree with you on the importance of that yoga movement.
Well, you nailed it on the head. I mean, the yoga is the glue to the whole program. It's not like yoga is a separate thing that you do that doesn't have an effect on everything. It has an effect on everything because it prevents injury. It makes you more durable and less vulnerable when it comes to everything else you do in your life. And you look at gymnasts, right? Gymnasts, for example, Olympic gymnasts, they have such power, such strength, and such amazing flexibility. And so they're always working on a lot of the similar movements that you would see in yoga. And, you can take a hit. I mean, the idea is to be able to take a hit. And a lot of, NFL football players, when the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, whatever, a few years back, a friend of mine was a friend of the coach, and he said, what's your secret? He goes, man, I got them all doing yoga. I got them all doing power yoga and speed yoga and yin yoga, and they friggin' hate it. But our injury rate has never been lower, right? And so when I had Eddie Lacy, for a while, he's also now with Seattle. And so yoga won't be new to him. I made him do that yoga, and he friggin' hated me, man. Just slop sweating everywhere. But every time he finished, he'd look at me and go, man, I've never felt this good after a workout, And so, and you're right. It improves your squats. It improves your range of motion on pull-ups. It improves your range of motion on push-ups. And it prevents injuries, and it makes you more durable as a human being across the board. And so, when I first started yoga, it was a full 6 months. I'd go twice a week early on. I was, in P90X, it's only once a week. And it blew my mind how terrible I was and how these skinny little girls in the class, which was almost all of them, were kicking my butt. And it made me so, and that's why I did it. I go, there's no way I'm going to be terrible at this forever. And at the 6-month mark, I remember getting through a class and going, hey man, I hardly even sweat, where before I would have been, looked like a lake when I used to go in there. And that's the magic of it, man. So, I don't want to talk all about yoga, but it's true what you're saying.
Tony, I want to be a good steward of your time. I appreciate what you've given us. Where do you want to direct people to learn more about living large and your book, The Big Picture, and the others? And then, of course, for us, in First Responders, 22-Minute Hardcore, your newest program. Where can we go to learn more about that? And tell us, too, a little bit about 22-Minute Hardcore real quick.
Well, I've been to 50-plus bases from Kosovo to South Korea. I've been to Japan twice, been to Germany, all over the States. I mean, I've hit there's a lot of military bases, man. We got them all over the world. And, after making that connection, I work with the DOD, and I've been to the Pentagon 3 times doing workouts. And, they sent me on my first tour to Aviano Vicenza and Camp Darby in Italy, and it was just such an amazing experience. And what's cool is too, I show up at these bases and everybody's done P90X and they love it, and I hear all about the results and whatnot. So and 22-Minute Hardcore is a tribute to them, and it's also an opportunity for citizens to make a stronger connection to the military, because everybody wants to support the troops. That's really easy to say, But to get down in the dirt and do your burpees and do your water bugs and you know, I mean, the one thing about hardcore is a sandbag if you want it, or just a dumbbell. You don't need much. I mean, you know, if you want to do the spec ops routines, you're going to need a pull-up bar. But for the most part, you just need a human body, some gravity, and earth. And if you have those things, unless you're in the space station, I guess maybe you're out of luck. But everybody else has those three things, and they're 22 minutes. And so the idea here was to create this. You know, there's two 22-second breaks in every routine except for one, and it just goes. It just goes. It burns a bunch of calories. It's my wife's favorite routine. It's the one that she got the best results with. It's for both men and women, and it's your chance to say, hey, you know what? I'm doing more than saying I'm supporting the troops. I'm actually participating in movements that our military does when they're going through boot camp. And I'm also, you know, cutting into this healthcare crisis a little bit by, you know, eating better too. So that's what it's about. And it's my latest program, and I'm really proud of it, man. And it's, you know, got 1 million downloads on Beachbody On Demand within a couple of months. So it's popular for a reason, because it works and people like it and it's efficient and it's fast. And the other thing too is if you want to know if I'm doing events, like if you want to go to Omega with me in upstate New York in Rhinebeck, then you go to Tony Horton Life. If you want to buy some TH Care, which is my skin and hair care line, because I had a lot of issues with my skin when I was out here in California. I had like 30 pre-cancers taken off my skin, and I went to these guys that were really good, and I said, I feel like I'm 25 on the inside, but I feel like I'm 65 on the outside, because I just burnt the crap out of myself every day not knowing better. And so they formulated these things for me. That's another thing you can get on there. And of course the books. All my programs from Power 90 to P90X3 to 22-minute hardcore all can be purchased on TonyHortonLife.com. That's my website. And then, of course, Living Large, the course I did with Brendan, is on there as well. You'll see that. That's the first thing that pops up. So, you know, if you're interested in what I do and you have faith in what I've been able to do in 35 years, you understand this lifestyle and you're struggling and you don't like to struggle and you want to improve on things a little bit, understand that I come from a food and fitness first place. And that, of course, requires accountability, and it requires a plan and a purpose. And if you're willing to jump in, because you're looking at a C- student with a speech impediment that had $60,000 in debt in a broken down car, who I wasn't suicidal, but I was as depressed a human being as a person could be, just with no way out. And so when you go to TonyHortonLife.com, you find all my solutions to help fix my life, to help improve my life. And I'm pretty sure that if you want to, you know, follow my path, it'll help you a lot. And it's helped, you know, millions and millions of people so far. We haven't hit everybody, but you know, that's why you and I are on this call, so we can kind of share the good stuff, you know.
There will certainly be more after this. And Tony, thanks for just your help with me, even, you know, like I say, because of your program, it was the first time I felt strong. And what a great feeling and what a great empowerment that was, you know, earlier in my life. And it's something that I've continued with since then. And that emphasis, you know, going from a cyclist and wanting to, you know, someday ride the Tour de France, and that being my goals to, well, I mean, that's exaggerating, but you know, the cyclist and that cardio and thing guy to feeling strong, and then how that changes things. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time today with us. All of your links to your website and everything else that you're doing, we'll put those in the show notes so people can go to thesquadroom.net to look that up if they can't write it down if they're out driving and whatnot right now. But appreciate your time. Thank you for your support of first responders, law enforcement, fire medics, and you know, we look forward to following you as you continue to push the boundaries of what we're capable of.
Well, thank you, man. When I heard about, you know, that you were looking for me and you wanted to do this, there's no hesitation. I just, you know, any way I can support, you know, all men and women in uniform, it's really important. You know, I didn't serve. My father was a tank commander in the Army. And so, you know, having traveled around the world, and, you know, and I do it for free. Nobody, you know, the military's not going to pay you, right? So just because it's important, you know what I mean? Whether it be police officers or firefighters or first responders or folks in the military, you know, you guys, you know, you keep the world going around, right? Without you, it gets messy out there, man. So I thank you, and you personally. I just want to thank you for having me on, and this podcast is awesome. And I think even after today, some folks are going to come away feeling like, oh, you know, maybe there's some new choices I can make, and after what we've talked about. I hope so.
Absolutely. I know it 100%. Thanks for your time, Tony. All right, thanks for listening to this episode of The Squad Room. If you like what you heard today, if you got something out of this conversation with Tony Horton, and I'd have a hard time believing that you didn't, please consider leaving a review on iTunes. It really helps promote the show and spread the word to other first responders. If you heard something today that you know a friend or a loved one needs to hear, please tell them about the show. Grab their phone out of their hand, go into their podcast app, and subscribe them to the show right there and there, and they will thank you. I promise, they will thank you. You can also email this episode directly from our website, thesquadroom.net. You can email it to friends. You can Facebook it. You can share it on Instagram and Twitter. All those things straight from our website. And, of course, you need to get on our mailing list. Thesquadroom.net is where you can sign up. But also, from your phone, if you text The Squadroom, all one word, The Squadroom, to 44222, you can get signed up right from your phone. I'm not going to spam you. It's all content related to the show. It's show notes. It's information. It's additional things. And that's growing by the day. So get signed up for our mailing list. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Squad Room, of course, as well, and on Facebook. Our job's tougher than anything we can put into a few words, anything tougher than even Tony Horton can motivate you to do in just an hour. So if you want to start a conversation, you have some questions, please feel free to reach out to me, Garrett at thesquadroom.net. That's Garrett, 2 R's, 2 T's. And lastly, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Audible.com. With over 180,000 titles in the inventory, Audible has hundreds of audiobooks that apply to us. It's great for a slow shift, a long commute, after you've already maxed out all your episodes of The Squad Room. To get your free 30-day trial and free audiobook of your choice, go to audibletrial.com/The Squad Room to sign up. Until next time, take care of each other and stay safe.